How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Oh my god! It's an introduction to a new episode of a podcast called Ghoulish with me, Max Booth, an undead host. On today's episode of the program, I am talking to Angel Louise Cologne about cockroaches. In this episode... So I have to say, this episode was recorded back in March, and it's now coming out in September. It was pushed way aside, along with a few other episodes that I will have come out pretty soon. Mostly because I was releasing the live episodes of the Ghoulish Book Fest, so this one just got pushed aside. And then I haven't really released much in the past month or so. If you follow me online, you already know why. Just briefly, my mother died in a drunk driving incident, so I kind of put a pause on any commitments I had going on, and I drove from Texas, where I live, to Indiana, which is where I grew up, and I've been helping my family, get things straightened out for the past month or so, and now I am back in Texas. I have edited this Cockroach episode with Angel. I think it's pretty great. It's a fun time. Throughout the episode, Angel does talk about a book he's not allowed to, really get into the details on, that he has written, a YA book that's coming out soonish. Since we had this recording, MTV Books has posted a big press release announcing Angel's book. So yeah, it's coming out through MTV Books, and it's called Infested. I don't know the exact publication date, sometime in 2023. So keep that in mind when you listen to Angel talk about his YA book. He was referring to Infested coming out through MTV Books. Pretty exciting, pretty cool. There's a few other things in this episode that now seem dated, like talking about the premiere of the movie X, and speculating on the movie Men, which I loved. I've seen it since this episode. I don't know if Angel has, but I have, and I thought it was pretty awesome. I loved X. I loved the prequel to X. I loved Men. A lot of good stuff. We talk, obviously, about cockroaches in this episode, but also Angel used to be employed with the fucking MAURY POVICH Show, so we talk a lot about looking behind the scenes on reality TV shows, specifically Povich. A lot of fun educational details on my podcast. They should broadcast it in schools, I would say. I don't know. It's been a long month, and I'm pretty tired. Thankfully, I have no time to rest, because if you are listening to this podcast on the day it goes out, which is Friday, September 23rd, well, good news. If you live in San Antonio and you want to say hi, this weekend at the Rolling Oaks Shopping Mall in San Antonio, I will be attending MonsterCon, which is a weekend-long spooky fest, celebrating all types of spooky stuff. Ghoulish Books will have a vendor table. I will be attending it and selling books along with my partner, Lily Michelle. Should be a fun time. Then, on Tuesday, September 27th, I am driving up to Austin, Texas for the debut episode of The Ghoulish Show. I think I've talked about this already, but just in case I haven't, beginning the 27th of this month, September, and continuing on the last Tuesday of every month going forward, I will be hosting a live comedy show called The Ghoulish Show. It's going to be me hosting, and I'll have a bunch of pals coming up and helping me perform comedy skits and doing live readings and all types of other odd things. I have a camera. I'm going to attempt to get this on camera and upload it on YouTube. No promises. If you're dying to see this happen and you live close by, I highly recommend coming out and showing your support. It's going to be great. We'll have a milch table from 5 to 7 p.m. And then also after the event is done. So the actual show is from 8 to 9. If you want to buy some books, be feeling after, please do. It's in Austin at a place called Radio Coffee and Bill. Great little spot. I used to do a show called Something Indecent with Max Booth. That was a pre-pandemic show, so we kind of stopped doing that for obvious reasons. But now we're bringing it back under the name The Ghoulish Show. And it's going to be spooky stuff only. I'm pretty fucking pumped. It's going to be good. So that's September 27th at 8 p.m. And the last Tuesday of every other month going forward. Not every other month, every month. So, yeah. But that's not it. I have other events going on. I have the tab open. Yes, on October 28th at 7 p.m. in Georgetown, Texas, I will be doing an event with a bunch of pals. LJ Joseph, LP Hernandez, Ryan C. Bradley, Johnny Compton, Andrew Hillebilt. We will be doing a reading and signing with the Lelk and Owl Book Shop in Georgetown, Texas, and doing a live podcast recording with the She Will Black podcast. That's going to be pretty fun. And then on October 29th, which is a Saturday, I will be doing a reading and signing at Cibolo Chick's Bookstore here in Selma, Texas. It's about a 10-minute drive from my house. So I'm pretty excited about doing an event so close. I'm sick of driving. I drove to Texas. Obviously. I drove from Texas to Indiana. And then from Indiana, I drove to Virginia to do the book event in Richmond. Great time. Loved it. If you're listening to this and you came to the Richmond event, thank you so much for coming out. I had a blast. And then another event I did recently was in Chicago, at the Bucket of Blood Books and Record Shop. Super fun. I did that with Daniel Krause and Cynthia Paleo. And I mean, those were two good pals of mine, and we just had a blast. And then we drove to Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and did an event at the Barnes & Noble in Bowling Green. And again, just a total fun time. I love doing events. Not a big fan of the traveling to the event, but once you get there, man, I quite enjoy that. And it was really much needed after the month I've had. Anyway, those are the upcoming events I have going on. Also, in case you missed it, we just released Jessica McHugh's Rabbits in the Garden. It's a reprint of her novel that came out a little over a decade ago from a different press, but now Ghoulish Books has reprinted it, and I am thrilled. I highly recommend going on over to ghoulishbooks.com and picking up a copy, and maybe also pre-ordering the sequel to this trilogy. The sequel is called Hills in the Hedgerow, and it's fucking great. Everything Jessica writes is awesome. Jessica McHugh is one hell of a writer, and I really want you folks to pick up Rabbits in the Garden and the sequel. The trilogy is called the Gardening Guidebooks Trilogy, and it's just a fun time. I think you guys will enjoy it. Yeah. Ghoulishbooks.com. Alright. I hope that's it. If you want to subscribe to my newsletter, which is the best way to keep up to date on events and new books and anything else, you can go to theghoulishttimes.substack.com. I should have a link to it in my show notes. And also, if you want to hang out on the Ghoulish Discord, there should be a link to it in the show notes as well, unless you listen via like Spotify, I don't think links really generate too well. But, it's easy to find. It's pretty easy to find. All right, here's my episode with Angel Louise Cologne about cockroaches. I hope you have a fun, creepy, crawly time. Thank you so much for listening. Let's talk about insects.
Insects, bugs.
I I asked you to come on the show and I said, what would you like to talk about? And you said insects. And I said, yes, let's do that. So what about insects do you want to talk about? What is your relationship with insects?
Well, so I'm working on a project. I mean, I get to do that vague nonsense where I can't really talk about it, but it involves roaches. So I've been writing about roaches for the better part of 3 to 4 months now.
Roaches.
And
okay.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I'm from the Bronx, so I grew up having to deal with the little brown roaches and the water bugs and all those fun guys. But it's one of those things I didn't think I'd be. I didn't realize how much they bothered me until I started writing about them and started reading more about them and understanding exactly how nasty they are and all the little things that they spread. It never really dawned on me growing up to think about any of that nonsense. You kill them, you clean up, and you walk away.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's wow, the separation. I haven't dealt with roaches in a very long time, and now that kind of on the outside looking in, it's oh, that's shit. That's fucking nasty. I grew up on some nasty shit.
Well, what about them bothers you?
You know what? It's the disease aspect. I didn't realize that was the thing. It was one of those things where it's oh, I didn't know those things can give you asthma. I didn't know that they can do all sorts. I didn't know. You don't love them, but I never really thought of them as carriers of anything awful. So
I didn't know they could do that. What the hell?
Yeah, they can absolutely they can give you asthma, they can spread disease, they all sorts of funky fun stuff, man. And it's one of those things where it's wow, it puts a lot of shit in perspective from where I grew up.
Yeah, I mean, I have cockroaches in my garage right now. I just thought they were just fun little bugs that people just get creeped out about. I didn't know they had these bad side effects.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to me, and it's also really funny that So one of the things I had found out too was the roach that we're very used to seeing, that brown roach, about an inch long, and the water bugs that you see too, the larger ones, are what's called the common German brown cockroach, and these things all pretty much originated from Germany, which I just think is an interesting thing, that the most common roach in the fucking world comes from one place. And it's just one of those things, growing up, you got used to it. And even, going to places like Puerto Rico and the Caribbean, you see different roaches out there. They got the flying ones that hiss, which is all sorts of fucked up. But it's just very odd to kind of find out all these things after the fact. When you kind of lived with them, you were used to them.
Yeah.
And then you realize how bad it is. And it's a weird class thing, I grew up in a working class place, didn't have a lot in apartments and all that. So you're so used to this thing that's a common part of life. Apartments will get infested sometimes, and you kind of roll your eyes and you're hopefully it doesn't come to my apartment.
Yeah.
But you treated it like it was DEFCON 1. It's not a suburban house. People get, I think, an infestation of roaches, they freak the hell out, right?
Uh-huh.
You didn't lose your goddamn mind. You just had to kind of live with this shit. You go to the store tomorrow and get a roach bomb, set that shit off in the morning before you go to work. And hopefully, that gives you a couple of months without a headache.
Right. You don't really think too much about it. It is funny though, as you grow older and you think about stuff from your childhood that didn't seem that big of a deal at the time, but now it's holy shit. An example I'll give, it's not bug related, but growing up, I grew up in the Midwest and we never had heating at all in the house. So what we did was we had this huge kerosene tank that we bought, and we all lived in the living room in the house. That's where everybody slept. And we had this giant kerosene tank just in the living room, and we would sleep around it on the ground. And only recently, I was doing some research into kerosene tanks, and they emit a ton of carbon monoxide.
Oh shit.
Like people die from that constantly, and
Oh my
like
God.
you see all these like cautionary like tales and stuff, how like if you do use those for indoor heating, you have to have a window open, you have to do all these things, you have to add the kerosene to it outside. We didn't do any of that. We did that inside, and we had no windows open.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Like it's one of those things, and it's strange how you can just go, I'm going to research bugs. I'm going to research these roaches, right? And this is like you said, like this could be almost anything, especially with writing, right? Because we derive, a lot of the stuff a lot of the traumas we insert into the narrative quite often tend to be our own, right? But I think sometimes you don't even realize when it's a trauma. It's one of those things. You grew up with a little, right? It's whatever. To you back then, you're surviving. You're good.
Yeah.
You can eat great, And then you get older and you like I said, you get some perspective, or maybe you're doing all right and you're a little better off. And then you sit back and you're like, oh fuck, this was a problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all.
Oh man.
It happens to me. It happens to me at least once a year.
Yeah.
Where something happened and I'll be like that. Oh shit. Okay. Let me add that to the list of like, unavoidable traumas from my life. That really aren't anybody's fault. It's just, where you're stationed, man. It's just one of those things that comes with being, a little less or whatever, a little less privileged.
Yeah.
And it kind of cracks me up, like kind of like, now coming from a place of privilege, that you're like, oh shit, okay. And then you also kind of like, at least for me, I'm a parent, so I sit back and I'm like, I try to get away from that nonsense of like, a lot of parents, I know my parents used to always be like, well, I had this as a kid, you're fine, rough it out or whatever. And I began to realize like that in and of itself is like a form of like trauma too. Like, I shouldn't want my kids to like go through the same shit I did.
Right.
That doesn't build character, man. That builds scars. They don't need that. I'm going to fuck them up in whole different ways, but at least it'll be a little kinder,
Yeah, shouldn't we be like progressing constantly? Like it shouldn't be, well that stuff happened to me, so now this should happen to you, child. It should be that stuff happened to me. I'm going to try my best not to let that happen to you.
Exactly. I was a latchkey kid, and my oldest is getting ready to kind of be a little bit of one himself. It's just the way schedules work out. And initially I was like, he'll be fine. I did it. And then I thought about that and I was like, well, I didn't love it. It wasn't great,
Yeah.
You're by yourself, when you shouldn't be. And, it was a tough time sometimes. And I got into a little bit of fucking trouble too, obviously. But it's always kind of funny when I think about it. I'm like, I don't like that. I've learned I don't really love that justification anymore. It's more like, shit, if I can't avoid something, like, let's talk it out. But like, I want to try, like you said, I want to progress. I want, I don't want to repeat shit. You're just spinning your fucking wheels, and it's just like, and it's like, we get allegorical about it. It's like, it's like a fucking infestation, right? That shit gets inside of you, and it takes a lot to get it out of you. And it's just like roaches, man. Once those bastards are in there, it's going to take everything to get them out.
You have roaches now?
No, thank God I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, like, there are times, especially like now I'm in a more suburban area, so there's more variety of insect out here.
Yeah.
So occasionally I'll see something like, oh shit, what the hell's that? It's like, oh, it's some kind of stupid beetle, But I'll still like get a moment of like, fuck that, what is that brown thing on the floor? And it's like a judgment against myself, because then it's like, oh, am I dirty? And being Puerto Rican, like there's always that horrifically racist association, from when I grew up, that whoever's new to the neighborhood tends to be the one that brought the roaches, right? Like, so, I would hear like Puerto Ricans bring roaches, or, in the 80s, it would be then, my people would flip around and go, oh, Bangladeshi people do it. It was disgusting,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this weird perpetuation thing in the city where, whoever the new immigrant group was, they're the ones bringing the roaches, even though the goddamn roaches have been there the entire time.
And they came from fucking Germany.
And they came from fucking Germany. The irony of that, right?
Yeah.
it's always been this thing that people have used as this go-to, like, you bring filth. And, part of the book I'm writing has a lot to do with that as well. This very, this stigmatization of people moving into neighborhoods and what they are and how they, they're viewed,
Yeah.
Roaches were a good example for it. And it's always funny, I've always, when we had our quick Twitter chat, just even thinking about like movies I thought about, I don't know if I think I always forget if it was Tales from the Dark Side or CREEPSHOW. I think it's CREEPSHOW.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say, and it is.
The Roach Scene, which has stuck with me forever because obviously I saw that at way too young of an age. I think I saw that when I was like 7 years old. Unedited too, not even on TV like a normal person. And I remember that like deeply affecting me. Like that, like that was a fucked up moment,
Yeah, because it's like, if I recall, the segment is this germaphobe rich white dude who's just like a fucking asshole to anyone he encounters. He gets like locked in some room, and somehow like cockroaches just eat him from the inside out.
Yeah, it's fucking messed up. And and it's funny, I've seen the edited and unedited versions. And the edited version isn't that bad, but I mean the unedited version, 80s practical effects. They just had roaches coming out of a dummy, but it was you're just like, fuck, on
the DVD. I don't know if you've seen like the bonus features of that movie, but they show a whole like behind the scenes thing of, it was Tom Savini who did the rig of that, and it was like, we only have one time because this dummy is gonna fucking explode of real cockroaches, and once that happens, I can't do it again.
Man, God bless them. They nailed it, because that always stuck with me. It's definitely one of those movies I was like, that stayed with me. All the like these weird bug movies. Like I was thinking, I went to Naked Lunch, Cronenberg's Naked Lunch.
Yeah.
Which was another weird one. I watched a lot of these just kind of like get that creepy crawly thing going, and really get a good understanding of that, especially because this project's YA,
Okay.
So on top of everything else, like, how do you find the horror without the gore?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know a lot about YA. So like, what all the differences between like, if people writing this as a full-on like just mainstream grown-up novel versus a young adult novel? I didn't realize like the blood and guts would have anything to do with it, but it does.
So this was my first go, and I went to my agent and I was like, all right, so how do my writing, and people who've read me know that I wrote a book where a guy got drowned in fucking semen. Like I go off, so
yeah,
it's hysterical that somebody wants me to write something YA, but I thought it was a good challenge, but what's the delineation, right? And basically they were like, listen, you can curse. Obviously, teenagers curse. I was like, that's fucking excellent. Okay. But it does boil down to, don't write Clive Barker, even though I read Clive Barker at that age, Clive Barker's books were clearly aimed at adults. So once I had that in my head, I was like, all right, great. Well, I mean, lean more towards maybe King's lighter stuff, where King doesn't go crazy, or, other, like, I tried to think of like other people that I was like, well, who did I like, I don't, R.L. Stein's a little below that age, but like, how do I get in between that?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do like, and I realized like, okay, so Viscera is not out of the question, but we're not going to go, I'm not going to go and describe, somebody's face bursting open and talk about the gristle and I'm not going to go there, but I can go other places. And Roaches presented a beautiful thing where, nobody really puts like a stigma on bug guts, nobody's sitting around editing that. So when I thought about that, I was like, all right, great, slime, man, green pus, like that kind of stuff. Or do we just go that? And also the creepy crawly stuff, like that, the uneasiness of being in a room and thinking something's in there with you and all that kind of stuff. So playing with that, it was a cool challenge, because you kind of have to back away from the stuff that I don't say it's a crutch, but it's the stuff that you kind of like, at least for me, and what I grew up with and enjoyed. I'm a big Thomas Savini head. My favorite horror movie of all time is Dead Alive, aka Brain Dead. Like, I love gory stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge in that respect of being a guy who at 16, 17 years old was watching that. So when I can't think about myself at that age because I was not live. But I got to think something that was hugely helpful was Scream.
Okay.
Which is probably one of the best examples of YA horror you could look at. Outside of the gory scene, like in the beginning with Drew Barrymore, I think that lines up beautifully. Like, you can do a lot with that. And Scream has a great tone,
Yeah.
And that's really, like, I looked at movies like that. It's hard to find the books because YA horror is not super common.
Right. Yeah. Like when I think of like YA horror, I think of like Christopher Pike.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. Like, because a lot, and the more popular genres within YA tend to be like fantasy or sci-fi or like thriller, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear a lot about paranormal stuff. But that's what made it fun. And that's what made it more, oddly enough, more difficult with the bugs, because I had to really get into it and like figure out like, what are the smells? Like what smells do roaches make, and what what are even like taste factors and like things like that. Like what are all these different details that I can pull from, and still, my first Cronenberg with this, because that was I really want, we talk a lot about like what we want to like expose readers to, and I was like, all right, if I'm writing for like impressionable people, how do I get them on these trains that I was into? So like, I want to write them my first Cronenberg, my first Raimi, my first Barker. Like, how do I do this like in a gateway way,
Yeah.
and still kind of like land some gnarly moments without it being something that people are going to get all in their cackles about. And that was a real fun challenge. And the bugs presented themselves. Like you realize like, wow, what a great little vehicle for the scares. Like, these little bastards, like, they're small, but if I write about a room just wall to wall covered with them an inch thick, like there's a response.
Yeah, it occurs to me too that like bugs, specifically cockroaches, that is a universal phobia, because like sometimes I imagine with YA and then with adult fiction, you're dealing with sometimes you're dealing with things that only affect one age group. Like kids sometimes have things they are afraid of that most grown-ups don't even think about now, and vice versa. But with bugs, that can affect anyone at any time.
Yeah. It's just everybody has one, right? Like, I mean, roaches don't bug me, but I'm a liar if I don't say spiders don't. Like, spiders freak me out a little bit sometimes, especially the larger ones. I'm like, no, get the fuck, I'm not cool. But my wife is fucking petrified of silverfish.
I don't know if I know what they although do they fly? Is that correct? No.
They're like millipedes. They pop up in basements. They're silverish, and they look like they're just covered in hair.
Oh shit! I don't think I've seen one of those.
Oh man, they're and they always show up like out of fucking nowhere.
Okay.
They show up at the worst possible time to scare the living shit out of you.
Did you say you live in Chicago now?
No, I live in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we get a lot. I mean, I'm in my basement right now, and I've already killed like 2 or 3 of them. As it gets warmer, they come out of the pipes.
Okay.
So every so often, I'll hear like the scream, like silverfish. It's just like I know that scream. But even that like the visual of the damn thing is a tactile. You have a tactile reaction.
I'm gonna Google this real fast.
It looks like
I need to see this.
It's horrific.
Oh my god, no! Fuck that.
Like they can get really big. Like they can start like maybe an inch, and then I've killed one that's like 4 inches long. And the worst thing about them too, like if you give them a good whack, they have so many legs they start twitching. Like they'll come off and like they'll twitch on the side, like it's jacked up.
Yeah, that's
my cat's caught a couple, and once or twice he's eaten them, and then like he has like twitching legs on his mouth. I'm like, this is wonderful. I get to clean this. It's like something out of the fucking Thing.
Yeah, I'm imagining that now, and that's great. You said you were researching what cockroaches smell and taste like.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to tell us?
So they do emit like an almond odor.
Okay.
And the taste, from what I've read, has been described as like dirt, like a little bit like not garbage, but dirty.
Okay.
Like dirty water, dirt, like grassy.
Having this conversation is reminding me of that fucking show that Joe Rogan used to host.
Fear Factor. If it wasn't for that, probably would be a lot better right now. But
yeah. Yeah. Did you watch that show at all?
No, I think I like saw like clips. You know, they have the episodes like getting a tank with roaches, like that whole thing. And that's it's funny. You think about things like that where it's like a challenge your sensibilities in your fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
And bugs always set that thing off. And it's funny, like we really started falling downhill when we decided witnessing people traumatizing themselves as entertainment, and B, convincing people traumatizing themselves is worth it for the 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
It's pretty, like, you really think about that kind of, it's like, wow, what the fuck? Like, how bored are we that we can just be like, you know what? Of all the shit we can make, of all the things we can do, you know what? We're going to put you in a tank filled with roaches, and people at home are going to watch this for some reason because they love to watch you scream. And you're going to do this because in the back of your brain, for some reason, you think this is going to lead somewhere. You know,
we grow up, we grow up obsessing with celebrities and these shitty ass shows like this. And now it's just like fucking say TikTok now is what replaced that. They allow you to like disillusion yourself into believing that you could be one of these people you've grown up obsessing over.
Oh no, it blows my mind. It's a whole other, you kind of like refusing to admit that you're human in a weird way, right? Like like a fight or flight thing. Your brain tells you like get the fuck away from these things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't think so. It means there's a reason that we have these.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to survive.
And then somebody's like, nah, I'll give you $50, and you're like, okay, like what? I don't. And I on TV, I know they don't get a lot of money. I worked on TV as a person who was on a show whose entire job was to make sure people humiliated themselves.
I was going to ask you about that. I saw you tweeted about this show. Yeah. Tell me, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, I worked on MAURY POVICH, which has been canceled after 30 fucking years. It's fucking mind blowing to me. I worked there almost 20 years ago. But yeah, I interned there from college. I was in a journalism program, and they had some internships open up, and it was between that and I think it was Court TV was the other choice.
Okay.
Well, Court TV would be too boring, and I kind of wish I had chosen Court TV in retrospect. But I went in and I started as an intern, and as an intern, your job was just to answer phones and get the producers their Diet Cokes and shit. And then they liked me enough to offer me a gig as a PA. So I took the gig because I needed money. And the pay was semi-decent, and I dug the people. The people were pretty chill. But I mean, as a PA, so you usually shoot 2 shows a day, and each show has 3 to 4 segments, normally 3 segments. And as a PA, you get assigned a segment, and you work with the producer, the main producer of that segment. So it could be anything, whatever the themes are of that day. And part of your job is usually, as a PA, is just making sure the guests are wrangled. You make sure if there's any props or other things that are needed, they're set up. You work with wardrobe. You work with the travel guys. You work with finance. You're like a glorified intern for this one specific producer. The producer's job is just to make sure everything on stage is going to go right. But the other job that you have as a PA as well is you got to kind of back up the producer, and a lot of times with wrangling the guests, especially when you have the baby mama episodes, which were the show's bread and butter.
Yeah.
Part of that is riling these people up.
How so?
one of the things that they love to have me do, because they're like, oh, you're from the Bronx, you can talk to these people, which, wow, dog whistles away. But, you know, one of the things I would do, they'd usually put me with the guys. And, you know, usually about 2 to 3 hours before, you know, shooting, I would take the guy, like, hey, you know, come have a chat with me. I need to have a chat with you real quick. And I'd take them, like, you know, outside of the dressing room by themselves, maybe take them to the stairwell, or like take them over to, like, you know, the kitchen to get a soda or something, and just, you know, pretend to shoot the shit. How you feeling? You know, you okay? How's everything going? You know, I know this is getting crazy. They got the results here. I just saw the guy come by. You know, are you nervous? Is everything okay? You know, and just kind of express the concern, but also start leaning, like, you know, listen, no matter what happens, you know, you need to let people know how you feel about this, and, you know, let the emotions out. You know, this is a big deal, you know? And also, you know, if we had a little read on what was going to happen, be like, listen, you know, if you feel like this girl's trying to, you know, take you for a fool and take your money, like, you need to let her know, and just
yeah,
stuff on them. Because what, you know, you wanted a pop. The goal for those segments was you wanted somebody to jump out of their chair.
Right.
That was an A+ for the segment. If it didn't happen, you fucked up.
Wow. That's,
you know, so manipulating people. And the worst part, you know, what people don't realize is the guests were manipulative as well. You had a lot of people come in straight up lying to us, you know, overacting, because they, you know, they wanted a free trip to New York. So it was always funny. And and the flip to that, though, is for the people who, you know, we'd fly them in, and it was this weird process. You fly them in, you give them the nines, they're treated like gold. But at the end, when we were done with you, we put your ass in a cab to the train station.
The train station?
And we were fucking done with you. And that, it was disgusting. It was like, you know, it was like a one-night stand. Like, you treat them like gold for the, you know, for the good time. And then as soon as that was over, you were dead. We didn't give a fuck about you. Wow. You know?
So,
and, Jesus Christ.
What a terrible show. How long were you with them?
I made it just shy of 4 months. I couldn't take it. My last segment, and it was like a test segment, I guess. They wanted to see if I had the nerve to be a producer, and clearly I didn't. So we had the theme. I'll never forget this fucking shit, because it is burned indelibly into my fucking head. The theme was survivors. So, you know, I don't know if people are familiar with MAURY Show, they would have other shows where, like, I survived this, I survived that. And they gave me a family with a 5-year-old boy who had been attacked by a pit bull. And his golden retriever saved him. The pit bull bit this kid's face and, you know, basically just destroyed his eyes. So they had to sew the kid's eyes shut. So the kid's eyelids were just sealed shut, and he was blind. And he liked drumming, so we got him a drum set. And my very last day on the show, I walk into the green room with this kid with no eyes, playing drums, a golden retriever shitting in the corner, and the parents just ignoring everything and being excited about the free clothes. And I stood there, I was like, oh, dude, I'm 24 years old. This is a David Lynch movie in front of me. I need to get the fuck out of here. And I just walked out. I did not come back. I just left.
Yeah.
And we were like, I think 22, 23 minutes from shooting. And I was like, I can't, this is fucking too much for me.
That's
like,
crazy.
I felt dirty. Like, I just felt like, what the fuck, dude? It was demented, man. And this was, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I was in far more Lynchian fucked up moments in this entire endeavor. Like, oh my God, we had an episode that was a little, she wasn't a girl. She was like, I think she was like 16. Yet the disease she had, it was the condition that they, like, the person didn't They didn't like grow. I forget.
Okay.
But they also aged. So she was still small, but also like withering. It was really
What?
like a really debilitative disease.
Yeah.
And she was like a friend of the show, and they had a thing where we were gonna have a segment for her birthday. And we did her birthday at a candy store in the city, and it was like we were the guests, and everybody at that table was an employee of MAURY POVICH, but we were supposed to pretend we were friends and family. But it was just this like very. I remember my buddy Joe, he was also a worker there with me. We both were just like, "What the fuck is this, man? This is so demented. Like, we're faking this whole thing." And part of me like wants to rationalize, like, well, if she feels good about this, we're doing a good thing, right? Like, that's I guess like that's the rationale. Like, this is a person who has a debilitating disease, and we're doing this really kind thing, I guess. But we're doing it with a camera in the room, so. Is it kind? I don't know. It's like, and you realize like this is exploitation. This isn't kindness. Just because at the end of the day, people aren't watching this to go, oh, how nice. People are watching this because they want to watch a carnival show. They don't care that this girl has this disease. They just want to see. They want to see from the privacy of their own home and not be shamed for it.
Yeah. Wow.
That kind of like was just like, all right, here's another, what the fuck is this, or just other situations. Dude, I can't tell you how many times I was the hands on camera that was either stabbing or strangling a woman. All these weird fucking things where you're just like, man, this is very different from making a movie or a television show. This is making a tabloid nonsense. This is carny shit.
What was the policy like when violence did break out? Like, was it like okay, at this moment, then we break it up?
Well, we had security guys, and because of Jerry Springer, and at the time when I was working there, it was just shy of a couple of years where there had been I don't know if you remember or were old enough to remember the show called Jenny Jones.
No, I don't.
So Jenny Jones, she was based out of Chicago. She was a Maury style show. Initially, she was a little more like Oprah.
Okay.
In the beginning, but then when Jerry Springer blew up and everything became, everything had to be a little more sleazy, she did a couple of shows, and she ended up doing a show that was like revealing romances. Like, somebody like, I want to let you know I like you.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an episode where they cornered a guy who had apparently been approached by another guy at his job, but the guy decided to bring him on Jenny Jones as a surprise. And long story short, the guy who had the crush got murdered by the guy he had crushed on.
Oh my
God.
God.
I shot him.
Wow.
So after that, all the shows kind of pared down. So like violence, as soon as it happened, we had like a team of like 8 or 9 defensive linemen sitting in the back. Like if anything crazy happened, these guys would run right in. And they would also edit most of that stuff out. Like if it got really crazy, they would edit most of it out because they didn't want to show it on TV. So I was lucky enough I wasn't around for anything nuts. Like I never really had. I think the craziest thing that happened on one show, a guy like did a backflip when he found out he wasn't the father. Okay, man, damn. It's a kid. It's not, you didn't just find out you got cured of cancer. But yeah, it was wild. And a lot of stuff was just made up. Like we would have like, the crazy couples. So like, oh, look at this very overweight lady with this very, very skinny guy. No, those were actors. We used to just catcall those guys.
Were you involved at all in any of the like brainstorming process of some of these episodes? Like, you came up with these?
No, you just had templates, man. We never really ran anything new. You had 6 or 7 show layouts.
Yeah.
But those were the money makers. Obviously Baby Daddy was number 1. That was the bread and butter. Like MAURY POVICH became the Lord of You Are the Father. That delivery, phenomenal. And then the lie detector was number 2.
Yeah. What was he like? Like, did you meet him at all much? And what was he like off camera?
he was a quiet dude, man. You know, I understood it. I was like, you know what? You're talking to people all day. The last thing you want to do is talk.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always pretty quiet, fairly like friendly guy. You know, they would have Christmas parties and stuff, and they actually had the first time I was there for a Christmas party. It was actually at his home. Like he has an estate, and like we got to go. That was really cool. He was a pretty cool guy. But I never worked with. I worked with like, you know, the executive producer more than ever with him. Like he just was in his dressing room.
Yeah, like with these types of shows, I do wonder like how much involvement behind the scenes do the hosts actually have, or do they just show up and just do the actual like broadcasting?
Oh, he just showed up. Like
Yeah.
that was everything else. It's the producers. You know, occasionally you'd have pitch meetings to, you know, are there new topics we can do? But those are few and far between because the ratings were in, man, and people just for Maury, people loved that the baby daddy stuff. That was I mean, it was crazy. We would, you know, if we would air like not baby daddy stuff and get calls like, why are you airing this? I want to see, you know, baby daddy stuff or you know, the cheaters, the lie detector cheating thing was huge. The boot camp stuff, which was fucked up.
Oh yeah, I remember all those. Yeah.
One of my favorites, we used to do occasionally get clip shows from other shows. We had there was a show called Cheaters.
Oh yeah, I know that show.
And I forget the name of the host, but he would come in and show us like the unedited stuff, and it was fucking hysterical.
Like
it was
what?
the best. You just have like dudes getting out of jacuzzis with their boners out and be like, baby, I'm so sorry. It was funny. We would watch that stuff for hours just because it was amazing. It's like, this is just balls akimbo, like weeping. I'm so sorry. It's like, this is the weirdest porn I've ever seen. It was.
I'm so aroused watching it.
Yeah. Oh man, that was always the best part. Just like how the dudes with boners openly weeping was the funny, outstanding.
I have to say that Dudes with Bonals Openly Weeping is a great title for like a Stilly collection.
Yeah. What always killed me about it is like, I felt like, man, if you're really going to get this emotional, get that thing under control, because I feel like it contradicts what's going on. Like I'm not going to take you seriously if you cheated on me with a raging boner and you're weeping. Like, dude, to me, the boner's telling more of the truth than the waterworks. Like, you're still going, man. Like, I don't believe you're that sorry.
Yeah,
honestly. But it was, and he had but this poor dude, they had an episode where they fucking went out to sea to catch a guy. Like, they went on a fucking boat. And they get over to the guy's boat, and he's there getting a hand job from a woman. They go out, and I don't know what's crazier, that these two people had to get on a boat to give each other handies, or that this guy took a boat to film this guy getting a handy on a boat.
What a day.
It was amazing. But then the dude getting the handy, like he was a real redneck dude, thoroughly upset, stands up and just stabs the host.
Oh, what?
Clips him in the stomach he had a fucking like a hunting knife right in the gut. It's like,
oh no. Was he okay?
Yeah, he was fine. He had a gnarly scar. But yeah, he got stabbed in the fucking gut on a boat.
By a guy who just got interrupted from a hand job.
Dude with his fucking pants down. It was amazing. Oh, can you imagine having that story? Like, a dude stabbed me with his dick out while we were on a boat, and we were on separate boats. Like, he didn't get on the guy's boat. The guy was on his boat, and the dude who got stabbed was on his own boat. Like, that's fucking insane. Like, that's this kind of television. Like, tabloid television is like, and I really have to sit back and like, this guy kept doing the show. I would have really had a come to Jesus moment and be like, dude, I got stabbed on a boat by a half-naked man making a TV show. Why?
The fact that he was on a separate boat when he stabbed him just makes it so much funnier.
It's amazing. It's most demented shit. And this, for the longest time, like, people were addicted to this shit.
You know, I don't even believe we were off topic at all, because these types of shows, well, the cockroaches of fucking TV.
Yeah, no, it's the fucking vermin,
Yeah.
right? This shit, it infests people's fucking brains, man. People get fucking bugs for brains off this shit. It's fucking bonkers. Like, I'm 100% convinced, like, that this shit is what wiped out people's empathy.
Oh, absolutely. Watching these people just go through like the realest moments of their lives just for these 15 minutes of fame, it fucks with you so badly. Like, that's what I believe, like, that's what social media does to you too. Just you witness these people get fucking slaughtered online constantly, and you join in on it, and you just cease to become a human.
Yeah. And you know what the shit is? Like, you can grow out of that. Like, when I was in college, we used to watch, you know, when YouTube wasn't like as fucking prolific, like, there used to be random shows. I remember my buddy and I used to watch a show called Maximum Exposure. And it was just a half hour of dudes falling off skateboards, you know? And it was infinitely fucking entertaining. But I mean, when you're a dumbass, okay, you know, that's entertainment for you. You're a fucking mouth breathing idiot. Oh, you guy fell off the fucking skateboard. You see the shape of his arm after that? Womp womp, you know?
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, as a 41-year-old grown up, like, I don't, like, have I seen shit like that and be like, Jesus fucking Christ, you know? Like, yeah, but I don't get joy out of that shit. I'm not sitting there going, oh, that was, you know, that was there's my dopamine dose for today. I got to watch a dude fucking break his leg. Like, now I'm like, oh, fuck, you fucked up, you know?
Yeah, now I think, like, oh man, I hope you have health insurance. Even then, you fucked, man. Do you need some money?
You fucked your shit up, man. You ate that, you know? But there are people who don't grow out of that shit. And it's like they're fucking stunted, man. And they continue watching. And then you watch how this shit's progressed. Like, all the shit that was happening then, it became, you know, all the shit I see people talking about now, The Bachelor and Real Housewives and all that nonsense, which is even more weird fucking, you know, brain numbing shit. And again, like, I get, like, I'm not shitting on people who watch it and get it, but it definitely has an effect on people who have like a lack of critical thinking skills. Like, they watch this shit, and to them, this is real life. Mm-hmm. And then they emulate it. They want their lives to be melodramatic like that. And they want their reality to be like this fucking amplified nonsense. And they don't realize, you know, those shows, these people there's editing. They literally have scripts for some of those shows where they're just like reenacting shit that is an anecdote from the people on the show, and then they fucking amp it up. You know, none of this is real, man. And, you know, there's money to be made. You know, it's interesting to me that people kind of like take a lot of that shit at face value, and like, and it's all down, like, what fucked everything up, man, was the real world. This is where it all fucking started. Mm-hmm. That's my theory. My theory is everything went to shit when the real world happened. The worst show that ever fucking happened.
Yeah, because did anything precede that? I don't think so. That was like the OG of the stuff, right?
No, yeah, documentaries and stuff. And once the MTV showed up and was like, you know, oh, what happens when, you know, people stop being polite and start being real? Everything was a shit. It was just, that was the end of it. That was it. At least the first season at least was boring because they were just like, I'm not gonna fucking fight for no reason, you know. But then after that, like, oh, well, you gotta fight to get attention. Then it went to shit, you know. Mm-hmm. And you got people who are 100% invested in, like, I want my life to be like that. I want to live a life where, like, I stir shit like a fucking, you know, villain in a soap opera.
Yeah, you see, it creates these people who go around and, like, they create this brand. Well, the brand is just like, yeah, I say what I think. If I'm an asshole, so what? I'm not sorry if I offended you. What are you gonna do about it?
Exactly. You see, like, and you said social media. You see that on social media all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I'm blunt. I'm brutally honest. Like, okay, like, you know, that goes both ways, man. Like, you can be brutally honest about, like, somebody being a dick, but you can also be like, yo, you look great today. That's brutally honest too, motherfucker. I never seen anybody doing that.
No, you don't see that.
You don't see that shit. If you're so brutally fucking honest, like, kindness has to come with that too.
Right.
I want more of that. I want to be like, yo, you look fucking beautiful today. You are awesome. That's how brutally honest I am. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Like, you know what? I don't even give a shit what you think, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I speak my mind. You look pretty cool. I like you.
No, and that's the shit. Like, whenever people have like that preamble, it's like, you could just say, I like being an asshole.
Yeah. Which is just the truth.
Yeah. Just be like, if you're brutally honest, just admit, I like being an asshole. It makes me feel good.
Which is a sad thing to admit, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be like, oh, great. I'm going to be like, hey, at least you were fucking honest about it, but
yeah,
I'm still not going to respect it. But it's still like, you see that all the time. You see, like, right now, the big Twitter brouhaha with, a world famous Twitter main character, Lauren Ho, who has been just a peach. You kind of look at things like that and you're like, wow, I'm an irascible asshole sometimes too. And I'm obnoxious and I'm loud. And I tend to, I know I can grate people sometimes. Man, I try not to grate people in a way that is undignified and is demeaning to others. I feel like it's not that hard,
It doesn't seem like it's that difficult, but I don't know, man. I don't know what's wrong with people sometimes.
No, I don't get it, man. It's like, this whole like these people are incapable of treating other people with like the bare minimum of respect, and it's fucking mind numbing to me. Like right now, the latest scandal, like, you got in trouble defending a person you know's book, and that person hasn't had to speak a word. And, we're forgetting that the book absolutely has issues and should be talked about. Nobody's talking about the fucking book. So I guess according to plan, but Jesus fucking Christ, like, this is the kind of shit you stir for somebody that you network with.
Yeah, what exactly is going on? I've been out of the loop.
So, and this is my understanding, but I'm probably going to get most of it wrong, but her issue at this point was she was defending a writer friend of hers who wrote a book, a gender side book, that many in the trans community say has immense issues with not just trans representation, but the way trans folks are just talked about.
Okay.
Gender side books, because, when you write a story where every man disappears, there's going to be a lot of things that go with it that you haven't thought of, especially if you're cisgender.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since Why the Last Man happened. So now you got to have a little more fucking thoughtfulness when you write these kinds of stories.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. And so a trans writer and reviewer got a copy of the arc of the book, read it, and really wrote an immensely long Twitter thread, about 10,000 words, breaking down the issues of the book, beyond transphobia, even into some of the, subtly racist issues, homophobic issues, and a lot of problems with the book. And I thought did a phenomenal job of citing the work in there and doing, checking every box, being incredibly objective as well, which wasn't there. Lauren lost her mind. Accused the writer of having an agenda, of attacking it. Tried to act like arcs don't exist. Like, you're talking to writers too. Like, we all know this shit is, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, how did they get the book? Like, and you have readers like, how did they get the book so early? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But attacking this person and attacking them and getting people to go after them. And what a coincidence, all the people going after the reviewer are TERFs.
Wow. Okay.
And
the cockroach of people.
Yeah. And if you're not, and then you claim that you're not that person, but I mean, it's like J.K. Rowling. Like, you claim this, but if all your friends are shit stains, you might be covered in shit.
Yeah.
And if all the people coming up to plate are these people, then either you are remarkably stupid or you're lying. And I mean, it's more often than not, you're fucking lying. And you have these fucking beliefs as well,
Right. Maybe, yeah. I understand.
Last year, she was also the main character of Twitter because she lost her ever-loving fucking mind over 4-star reviews on Goodreads.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like, dude, one, we don't fucking read your reviews, even if they're good. What the fuck are you doing? And two, 4 stars? Like, really? Is that really that upsetting to you? Like, holy shit. But because of all this, the Lambdas removed her nomination for their annual awards. So she also lost her mind about this and pretended that the trans community came together to strip her of this award. The funniest part about that is they hadn't even nominated her. They let her know, we removed your name from the long list. So it wasn't even like,
yeah,
you were on the short list. You didn't lose shit.
Wow.
You know? So it's been a mess. And I hate getting into it's again that tabloid shit. I don't want, but I fucking watch it. But at the same time, it's like there's a difference, because I can actually say, like, why are you being so demeaning to people? Like, fucking stop it. But it's fascinating to me, because that kind of behavior, I think, is 100% indicative of this shedding of empathy, and it comes from a place of privilege too. I can tell that this person is immensely privileged, probably comes from money, because you don't act like that unless you come from money, and you pretend you're like, oh, I'm working class. Cite your fucking work. I got some fucking feelings, because I'm a working class guy, and I don't talk about people like that, and I don't talk to people like that, and I love cursing, and I love telling people how I feel, but I don't talk to people like that. So we need to get a fucking full, thorough combing of shit if you're gonna claim stuff. But it's just it's fascinating to me. Like, this kind of behavior is just, man. The fact that you have the balls to act this way, and you probably would never have the balls to act this way in, like, real world. I hope not, you know? But shit, man, like, we're all just trying to survive, and here you come and you're just shitting on people for existing. The fuck, man?
Yeah. I would, for those listening, if you're interested in a apocalyptic book that deals with the genocide that isn't written by a terrible human being, I would recommend Manhunt by Gretchen Felkel Milton. Great book.
I've heard nothing but good things. I need to check it out. I heard it's fucking batshit crazy.
I can't believe it's a book that, like, a big press put out. It's insane.
Everything I hear about it, I'm like, holy fuck, rock on. Like, I love that. I love it. I love to see that happen, man. As a person who loves, as a massive grindhouse guy, and I always love to inject that kind of stuff, even when I'm writing very straight stuff.
Yeah,
I always have to find a place for that vibe, and I love hearing that a book like that is getting the love it's getting, and also got published by like a bigger press.
Yeah,
like, you got to rock on. Like, that's and that, I think, is all, like, kudos to the writer. That's indicative of, like, a really good fucking writer. Like, you wrote some hard shit, but you wrote it well enough that, like, even a place that would normally not publish stuff that crazy, they can't deny it. You became undeniable. I love that shit.
Yeah, and then in doing so, you begin paving a path for all that type of shit, which is just great for everybody.
Yeah, and that's the best part of it, because, I mean, I think there's room for that. You look at, it's always interesting to me that horror doesn't perform as well in the literary world, considering how well it performs, in cinema and television, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, though, I don't think that's because, people don't want to read it. I think it's just the publishers they're not picking the best projects, and I don't think they're putting enough money behind it. Stephen King didn't get big, Stephen King had backup.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, Stephen King's the master, but he had backup, man. There was publicity that came with that.
He wasn't big really until the movies happened.
Yeah, it wasn't until Carrie, and then, like, even then, I would think probably The Shining is what really pushed it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, I wasn't alive, but I don't know at what point in his career he became, like, a household name. I'm not positive.
I mean, I remember as a kid, The Shining and Firestarter were two big movies. I remember Firestarter was, like, popular for a hot second.
That's funny because no one talks about that now.
Nobody talks about Firestarter. Drew Barrymore. That's like I think she was like 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. It was like, and then I remember, like, seeing on TV all the time. What was it? Cat's Eye, and Carrie was always on TV. Carrie was a big movie. I remember my mom, like, that was, like, one of her favorite horror movies.
Yeah, my mom's too. Yeah. That's a good mom movie.
Yeah. I think, I mean, you think about, like, When was before Carrie? Was there a movie that had a full out, like, was there a movie that opened with a girl having her period?
Not that I know of.
Every time I think of that movie, I'm like, yeah. You look at the movies now, like you kind of shrug, but like Carrie was, damn, that was pretty progressive when you think about it.
Yeah.
Especially like, and then at the end, you got this girl kicking everybody's ass with her brain. Like, I don't know if anything had been done quite like that. De Palma, I mean, that movie's filmed beautifully. But yeah, I look at like, I feel like he became like household maybe by the time they like started doing all the TV series. Like once It and The Stand, and then they were just like going into like, fuck it, let's do Langoliers, let's do fucking Tommy now. They were just like, fuck it. Like, anything that's on.
I'm just imagining one like coked up producer just seeing all these books. Fuck it, that one too. Let's do them all.
Like, can you imagine somebody getting the rundown on Langoliers? Like, yeah, fuck yeah, we need to film this. Like, what?
Fuck. And of course, as we already mentioned, CREEPSHOW, which has one of the best cockroach scenes of all time.
Full circle, man. And that was, it was one of my favorites, man. I miss those days of just like, I feel like in the literary scene, we can get back to that, man. I think, I think it was one of the reasons why writing a YA horror like book appealed to me. Is like, I want to see more variety.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think horror deserves to be everything, and because everybody has their taste. Like, there are people who still dig the Hostel style stuff, not my taste, but hey, rock on, you do you. You had, I still love a good slasher. X just came out this past weekend, which I got to see. It was fucking awesome.
I loved it.
Fucking fantastic.
So good.
So much fun. Such great throwback moments, funny shit. I was cracking the fuck up the last 30 minutes. I could not stop laughing.
That was a good movie to see with a crowd. Did you sit around for after the credits?
Yes, I got to watch the trailer for the prequel. I'm excited.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh man, but also the other trailer I got to see, Men.
I haven't seen the preview yet. Is that looking good?
Incredible. And it's gonna stir up shit with the right idiots. So It's gonna be fucking fun when that movie drops.
What is that about? I don't know anything about it besides who made it.
So from what I can gather from the trailer, it's about a woman who travels to the countryside to get away because her husband, I don't know if it feels like he killed himself, and she saw it happen. So she's trying to deal with this trauma, and she goes to a countryside town that seemingly is filled with nothing but men who all kind of look the same.
Okay.
And so all the men are played by the same actor.
Huh. Okay.
Even creepy as shit.
Well, I love that guy. I love anything that guy makes, so I'm excited.
Yeah. His name is leaving me right now.
Alex Garland, is that his name? He made Annihilation and Ex Machina.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people don't notice, fun movie fact, pretty much directed all of Dread.
Okay, I didn't know that. I haven't seen that.
Oh, Dread is amazing.
Okay.
He wrote it, but he also, apparently the director had been fired. So he also that was actually his real first movie. Dude, that Dread movie is Best Judge Dredd. Carl Urban is amazing in that movie. And so is from Game of Thrones, the woman who played Cersei Lannister.
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't watch that show.
But fantastic movie. She plays a great villain named Mama. That's fucking amazing.
Okay, I'll look into that. I haven't seen it, but I'm not opposed to seeing it. It just passed me by.
It's a fun, pulpy movie. But yeah, Alex Garland, he also wrote 28 Days Later, which is fantastic. Yes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love Ex Machina. I love that movie so much.
I love that dance scene.
Oh, Oscar. I have, in no uncertain terms, have an absolute massive crush on Oscar Isaac. He's amazing.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, that man is awesome.
I
have a beer with that dude second.
Fuck, I love him in Inside Llewellyn Davis. One of the best Coen Breville movies, I think.
You and I, that's my favorite Coen Brothers movie, man.
Same. It's so good. It's tied between that and Built and Fink, I think, for my favorite.
I tell people all the time, man, if you want to watch a movie about being an artist, Inside Llewyn Davis is dead ass. Like, that is one of the best movies I've ever seen about being an artist.
Oh yeah, that scene where he fucking plays his goddamn guts out.
Yeah,
it's the best song he could possibly sing, and the guy's just like, I don't see any money in it.
Yeah, and it's so like that. That's like, that is it, man. You could be good at something, and nobody will ever fucking see the star in you, man. And that is rough. That is so rough. But and now the fucking scene where they're writing that they're doing a novelty song, and that whole process just fucking Adam Driver with the fucking outer space. That whole is fucking amazing. It's such a great movie about art and the kinds of people that make art. I love it. It's and he does such a good job of playing like, just a talented scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
He does such a good job at that.
I might go rewatch that now.
Yeah, I gotta watch it again. I love that fucking movie.
So good. Okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Do you have any other like crazy cockroach facts you wanted to bring up? I'm no longer calling this the insect episode. This is just the cockroach episode.
No, it's funny. One thing that they are becoming completely immune to pesticides. Which is fun if you want to worry about something in the next generation. I mean, here's the thing about roaches. They can actually like phase out their sensitivity to pesticides in a year. Within a year, you're looking at 7, 8, 9 generations worth of these fucking things.
Okay.
They can, left alone. I mean, you if you have a dozen of these things, they can become thousands within a couple of months. It's fucking fascinating.
Wow. And what's the thing with isn't there something about cockroaches surviving like a nuke?
Yeah, I mean, they've talked about that. I mean, they can survive a few days without a head. The only reason why they actually die is because they can't eat.
Okay.
But here's my favorite cockroach fact, and my son always gets a kick out of these things because I don't actively look this shit up. I've just always bumped into these fucking things. Years ago, I was watching a documentary about animals mating and reproduction, and they talked about the common roach. So here's a fun fact: the common roach has as many as 7 penises. And they're all different shapes.
What shapes?
I don't know. But that is a fucking gross thing I found out. And it really makes me wonder, like, why? Like, is it like, why are you the Swiss Army knife of dicks? Like, no. But this is what,
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things I'm like, then there has to be a God, because that's just funny. And you can't, that shit just doesn't happen. Somebody who thought that would be funny did that.
And those things, let's give him 7 penises. Why not?
Yeah. How about 12? No, 12 is too much. You're overdoing it. 7 is just right. Just give him 7 dicks. You know what? He's going to live a pretty awful life. It's going to last him maybe 5 months. Let him have 7 dicks. He has something to do over the time. Who cares?
In a row?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Are they side to side, or is there a compartment? Does he have a choice? Is he now I have a lot more questions.
Yeah. I'm just imagining all those legs will just dicks now.
Yeah. Well, I'm more like, do we just convince David Cronenberg to make a remake of The Fly, but about the roach?
He might, man. He's remaking one of his Ethel movies right now.
And I feel like Cronenberg would go there. He'd definitely have a 7 dick scene.
That's the dream.
Yeah. Just bring I'm sure you can convince Jeff Goldblum to come back if you tell him, listen, read the script, and he comes back. He's like, we're doing this because there's 7 dicks. Like, 100% Jeff, this is why we wrote it for you. We wrote this for you. 7 dicks.
Fun fact about Jeff Goldblum is he also has 7 dicks, so he could just disrobe.
Yeah, he doesn't even need prosthetics. It's perfect. It's bizarre that they just fly. I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's what I read on IMDb trivia, at least.
Jeff Goldblum famously has 7 dicks. That much charisma requires 7 dicks. It doesn't make sense. Oddly enough, only 1 pair of balls, but 7 dicks.
Yeah, that scrotum's doing a lot of milk. Shit. Well, I think we've ran into all time. This was great. Do you have anything you want to promote? And where can folks find you online?
Folks can find me online. I'm on Twitter. I'm on not much else. Find me. It's at Gosh Darn My Life. I'm always ranting and raving over there. We've been talking about the Roach stuff. I can't officially announce anything yet, but there will be news on that soon. Looking at probably soonish. I got, we're working out some more stuff, but if you're good at interneting, you can actually find out something about it if you look around. But happening there. Otherwise, if folks are interested in reading the fucking ridiculous shit I've written, you can always find me on Amazon. My novel's out there. Hell Chose Me. It's about a hitman who kills people to keep his brother on life support. Because he's a smart person. And I wrote a bunch of novellas. I know I'd mentioned before about that guy drowning in cum. You can check that out in a book called No Happy Endings. That's a lot of fun. It's a heist novel, and the heist is sperm.
Okay, I gotta read that one.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And I'm looking forward to this Cockroach book. It sounds fun.
Yeah. It's gonna be a blast.
Okay, and that was Angel Louise Cologne talking about cockroaches. Stay tuned through MTV Books in 2023 for his new YA spooky book, Infested. And also, go on over to GhoulishBooks.com. That's GhoulishBooks.com. Buy yourself some spooky books that I've written and some spooky books I've published. I recommend Rabbits in the Garden by Jessica McHugh and my new novel, Maggot Screaming. Fun times. They kind of go together too. Both of them involve a garden of some kind. I didn't realize that until right now. Alright. Goodbye.